As I was introduced, I'm the head of performance optimization at Vungle. If you don't know Vungle, Vungle's a pure in-app video platform designed to bring the highest value users to our buyers or developers. So before we start, we can go into the title a little bit. I think our marketing team was somewhat ambitious with this one. So the secret to gain profitability, how to identify, retain, and engage the highest value users. So I think it would be naive of me to talk you through how to identify the highest value users. I was at PG Connects earlier this year in January. I saw a presentation about how to basically predict your LTV when you're buying from a platform like Vungle. We went through the kind of power curve for return on ad spend and the curve for retention as well, and then the combinations for the LTV. It was an excellent presentation, but I'd actually seen a very similar one back in 2013 at Slush as well. So I think that's something that the market is very capable of doing, very capable of understanding what users they want and identifying them. Equally, it'd be quite naive of me to talk through retention and engagement once users are in your game. Frankly, I'm not very qualified for that. I'm sure there are a lot of speakers here already that really can talk to you about how to make a better game. So, in short, I'm not really going to talk about any of this, but I will talk you through some of the things that we see from a platform side that maybe you don't see from a buying side. Some of the things that will hopefully give you a bit of an insight into how to continue to buy effectively, continue to buy at a positive ROI. So specifically, and these three are probably going to seem quite eclectic, but they should tie together quite nicely. The first thing I'm going to talk to is daily view number. So daily view number is how many views a user has seen within one publisher app, so how many videos the user has seen per day, and how that will affect your return on ad spend. The second thing I'm going to talk to is view-through attribution, so a popular subject for the past sort of 2 years, specifically with video advertising. And the third thing is click-on view fraud. So in my opinion, this is probably one of the biggest problems that we have in the industry around video. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how it can really affect your buying. So, daily view number. So as I said, daily view number is the number of views or video views that a user has seen per day in a specific publisher app. The way that it affects your return on ad spend and conversion rate is plotted here on the right. So the bars are your average 7-day return on ad spend. This is for the whole Vungle platform. And the line there is conversion rate. So along the bottom is the number of views a user has seen per day. So you can basically see that the first view that a user sees in a given day is not only the most likely to convert into an install, but also the most likely to convert into a user that provides high value for you as a buyer. What does this mean for a buyer? Essentially, it means that competition is a little bit unfair. So let's say that you were buying in a specific publisher source, and you had a direct competitor who also saw similar quality. You have a similar app that monetizes fairly equally. Essentially, if your competitor is getting more first views, they're likely to get more installs, but also they have more buying power because they are likely to get a higher return on ad spend. So they can bid higher than you, which means it's actually very hard for you to get more of those first views once someone is in front of you. So what have we seen our buyers do to combat this? Specifically, what they're doing is around new supply. So when a new publisher or a new app comes onto the Vungle platform, it's pretty much up for grabs from anyone. And what we see is some of our largest buyers trying to take advantage of this curve. So what they'll do is they'll overbid for any new supply, which will mean that they'll instantaneously start to get a lot more first views and start that kind of cyclical approach of having more bidding power, having extra conversion rates, seeing lots of installs. That gives them the ability to basically evaluate a source at its highest potential and then take it or leave it. They don't get into that situation where they're playing second fiddle to a competitor for a very high quality source. The risk, of course, is that you overpay for a source that doesn't have good quality. So you have to manage this pretty effectively. Any questions on that? Cool. So the next is view-through attribution. Most of the conversations I have about view-through attribution with our buyers are around the idea of, is a view enough of an influencer to attribute an install to it? And that's a very valuable question. We'll actually go on to that a little bit later. But what I wanted to talk you through today is how view-through attribution, how it can affect your campaigns from the platform side. So, for people who don't read the attribution magazines, just a quick run-through of what view-through attribution is. So path one is normal install attribution. User sees a video, user clicks, redirected by a third party to the App Store, they install, and the install is attributed back to the click, as long as it happens within 7 days or another defined window. And the last click wins. So if it was a Vungle click, it was the last click, we'll beat one of our competitors. View-through attribution is slightly different, so the click-through attribution still exists, but on top of that, you'll have path number 2, where a user just watches a video, they don't click it. Within a certain window, usually 24 hours, but it can be varied as well, they go to the App Store independently, download the same app, and as long as, say, Vungle generated the most recent view, then we would be attributed the install. So this is pretty standard. A lot of people do this a lot. It's pretty normal. And these are the standard attribution windows, 7 and 24 hours. But you can edit these pretty wildly. So what happens when you turn it on? So this is some example data for a client who would turn on view-through attribution. So along the bottom here is basically a time frame. The green bars are click installs. Blue bars are view-through installs. And the gray line is the number of views that Vungle is attributing to you. So on day 7, this partner turned on view-through attribution. The total number of installs went up because a lot more view-through installs suddenly appeared. Those view-through installs were actually organics before. So you're making the choice to change some previously organics, which you're not paying for, to paid installs. At which point your conversion rate went up on the Vungle network. Therefore, you're attributed more views, and therefore, you actually gained more click installs as a result. So what I want to kind of discuss here is the calculation and the important choice that you're making with turning on view-through attribution, because it's not quite as simple as it seems. So basically, before you had organics and you had paid click installs. Organics was a mixture of people who had seen views or even clicked, but they were outside the attribution window, and people who had just not seen any advertising and independently gone to your store. And also, you had click installs, paid click installs, very normal, within the attribution window. After the organics were split out, they were split out into people who had either viewed outside the attribution window or not seen any ads at all, and then people who had viewed in the attribution window became view-through installs and therefore paid installs. So the green circle there for view-through installs, green means you're paying for it, blue means you're not. On the click side, you had the same number of click installs, but then you got extra click installs. But additionally, because your conversion rate went up on the Vungle platform, you also get more first views. So as I discussed earlier, more first views have higher value. So overall, your calculation is quite complicated. You have to basically understand, by paying for this portion of organics that I didn't have to pay for before, am I more or less, or am I better or worse off than I was before, factoring in the increase in return on ad spend from more first views, the extra click installs, and that's it. Okay, any questions on that? Okay. Nice, so this leads us on to a pretty important topic. I think it's a fairly underrated topic. I've named it here, click on view fraud. That isn't an official thing, it's just kind of what I named it. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about, unfortunately, a lot of the time, a situation occurs for one reason or another where a platform will send views as clicks to a buyer. And this on the right-hand side is an example of that. So you can see in the blue square here, it's an example of where no impressions are being passed, but the click numbers are pretty much equivalent to what you would expect from impression numbers, and the install numbers are fairly normal. So why am I raising this? Why am I raising this? Basically, this happens a lot, all the time. It probably goes unnoticed by a lot of buyers, but today I wanted to discuss the effect that it can have on your return on ad spend. So we actually partnered with one of our clients to test out what actually happens when we, as a platform, start to send views as clicks to them. So this is basically what happened. This is a time along the bottom. You can see before where the line is the percentage of installs that didn't get a click, didn't have a click at all. They did have a view. So in the first kind of few days there, we were running normal view-through attribution. So about 15% of installs didn't have a click but had a view. So between 5 and 20% is normal for view-through attribution in terms of installs. When we started sending views as clicks, this basically doubled. So 30% of the total number of installs had no click at all. That also led to a big increase in the overall number of installs. So pretty significant changes. And this is kind of what you'd expect, and really this is the motivation behind this type of fraud. So what really happened there is essentially that you may think is very, very similar to normal view-through attribution, but what you're doing is basically running view-through attribution with no attribution window. So you're saying if someone sees a view within the click attribution window, so 7 days, then I'm allowed to have the install. So it's basically applying a 7-day attribution window to your view-through installs. So why is that not a good thing to do? So this, and I really wish I had it by hour, but it's a lot of data. So along the bottom here is the number of days between a view and an install. The bars represent the total number of installs. This is for the whole Vungle platform. And the line represents the average return on ad spend for all of our partners. So basically what this says is that after a day, your return on ad spend basically plateaus. Which essentially, we can gather from that essentially that after a day, you're just paying for organics. So this flat line is basically a return on ad spend of your organics. And the peak on the first day is the return on ad spend of your paid installs. Now, this is just for Vungle. There are going to be platforms that offer installs that are lower than your organic quality and higher. All of them have merit. Without paid installs, there'll be a lot fewer organics. But this has a big effect on the fraud that I'm talking about. So this is what happened to that same campaign. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah. 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 Good question. Yeah. This is why I wanted to view by hour. I haven't done it by hour because it's so much data for the network. Yeah, I do think there would be merit in breaking it per hour. But actually, we also see, especially for click installs, that even within the first hour, it's maybe 90%. So yeah, a day is quite a buffer. Cool. So this is the same campaign. The bars are installs, and the line is the average 7-day return on ad spend. So there's about a 20% drop over time. The reason being is that you're counting organics that have a lower return on ad spend compared to the paid installs that Vungle's offering. So you may be thinking, okay, but we got a load more installs. But it's very important to remember that those installs were previously free. So this is essentially what I wanted to raise. I think it's very easy to miss this if you're a UA buyer, because you're really looking at what you're buying. You're not looking at the overall picture of how big or small my organic pool is getting. It's very hard to track the transition from an organic to a paid. So yeah, this is really what I wanted to highlight. And the final thing it does as a buyer is, as I was discussing earlier, there are platforms that kind of deliver quality that are above your organic average, and there are platforms below. If you were to allow or just miss the fact that platforms were sending you views as clicks, the effect would be that everyone who was delivering quality above organics would look worse, and everyone who was delivering quality below organics would look better. So you're just squeezing everyone into your organic average. And that means you're buying more and more from those partners that don't deliver the quality that you need. So in summary, you can beat the impact of a view number from being quite preemptive. Attribution windows are very important. I think if anyone's trying to tell you that you should use a 30-day view-through attribution window, then you have big problems. And finally, paying for organics just makes everyone look a lot more similar. It makes the worst look better and the best look worse.